Imagine finally meeting someone who loves you exactly the way you've always wanted. They text first. They remember the little things. They make you feel safe. They don't play games. They choose you consistently. Then something strange happens. Instead of getting closer, you slowly begin pulling away. You reply hours later. You cancel plans. You overthink every kind gesture. You become quieter, colder, more distant. Eventually, you lose them, not because you stopped loving them, but because somewhere deep inside, being loved felt more frightening than being alone. Why do we do this? Why do so many people spend years searching for love, only to run from it the moment it finally arrives? Tonight, we're going behind the silence, behind the excuses, behind the late replies, behind the emotional distance, to uncover why we push away the people we love, and the invisible fears that quietly push us first. Because sometimes the greatest threat to a relationship isn't the other person, it's the part of us that's convinced love was never meant to stay. If you've ever pushed someone away, you're not alone. And if someone you loved suddenly became distant, this story isn't about blaming them. It's about understanding what may have been happening beneath the surface. Because people rarely wake up one morning and decide, I'm going to ruin the best relationship I've ever had. It happens quietly, almost invisibly, one small step at a time. A delayed reply, a canceled date, a conversation avoided, a little less affection, a little more silence, until one day, the distance feels impossible to cross. Meet Maya. She's 29, kind, funny, the friend everyone calls when life falls apart. She had spent years wishing someone would love her without conditions. Then she met Ethan. He listened. He remembered the stories she told weeks ago. He asked how her meetings went. He noticed when she wasn't okay, even before she said a word. For the first time in years, she felt safe, or at least she thought she did, because a few months later, something changed. She started taking longer to reply. When Ethan asked if everything was okay, she smiled and said, I'm just busy. She wasn't. She simply didn't know how to explain what was happening inside her. The closer he came, the more anxious she became. His kindness felt overwhelming. His consistency felt suspicious. His love felt heavy, not because he was doing anything wrong, but because her mind had quietly started asking dangerous questions. What if he sees the real me? What if this doesn't last? What if I get too attached? What if he leaves like everyone else? Those questions didn't make her hold on tighter. They made her pull away first. This is something psychologists call attachment. Not attachment as in love, but the invisible blueprint we develop for relationships long before we understand what relationships even are. The way we learn to receive comfort. The way we learn to handle conflict. The way we learned whether people stay or disappear. Most of us think we're choosing how we love. In reality, much of it was learned before we could even spell the word love. Think back to being a child. Imagine you're scared. You run to the people you trust. What happens next? Do they comfort you? Do they tell you your feelings matter? Or do they say, stop crying. You're too sensitive. Go to your room. A child doesn't understand trauma. A child understands patterns. If every time you reached for comfort, you were ignored, criticized, or rejected, your brain learned a simple lesson. Needing people isn't safe. That lesson doesn't disappear when you become an adult. It simply changes clothes. Now it sounds like, I don't need anybody. I'm better on my own. Relationships are exhausting. But underneath those words is often someone who learned very early. That vulnerability came with pain. So when someone finally offers healthy love, their nervous system doesn't recognize it as safety. It recognizes it as risk. Because what's unfamiliar can feel more dangerous than what hurts. That's one of the greatest paradoxes of the human mind. We don't always choose what's healthiest. We often choose what's familiar, even when familiar has been hurting us for years. Here's a question worth asking. What if the greatest fear isn't being rejected, but being known? At first, that sounds backwards. Most people will tell you they're afraid of losing the people they love. But if you look a little deeper, many are terrified of something else. Being seen, not the polished version they post online, not the confident version they show at work. Not the funny version their friends know. The real version. The one carrying years of insecurity. The one still wondering if they're enough. Because being seen creates a terrifying possibility. If they know the real me, they might leave. So instead of risking abandonment, we create distance ourselves. It feels safer, or at least, our minds convince us that it is. Maya never talked about her childhood, not because she had forgotten it, because she had survived it. Growing up, love was unpredictable. Some days, her parents were warm. Other days, silence filled the house like fog. Affection came with conditions. Praise had to be earned. Mistakes felt expensive, without realizing it. She learned that love could disappear without warning. Years later, Ethan would text, "I miss you." Instead of smiling, her chest tightened. Not because she didn't miss him too, but because every loving message carried an invisible question. How long before this changes? And when your heart is always preparing for goodbye, it's difficult to enjoy hello. This is how self-sabotage begins. Not with dramatic arguments, not with betrayal, but with fear. Fear whispers. Don't depend on them. Don't tell them how much you care. Stay one step ahead. Leave before they leave you. The tragedy is the very behaviors meant to protect us often create the ending we feared all along. We become distant. Our partner feels unwanted. They stop reaching out. The relationship begins to fade. Then our brain quietly says, "See, everyone leaves." Without realizing, we helped write that ending ourselves. It's a painful cycle. We expect rejection, so we build walls. Those walls create distance. The distance weakens the relationship. The relationship ends. And every ending becomes more proof that love can't be trusted. Round and round we go, not because we're broken, but because our minds are trying to protect wounds that haven't fully healed. The hardest part? Most people don't even realize they're doing it. They think they're being careful. They think they're guarding their heart, when in reality, they become prisoners inside it. Sometimes, the people who seem the most independent are simply the ones who became experts at surviving alone. And survival is very different from living. So if fear can quietly convince us to push love away, is there any way to break the cycle? The answer isn't becoming fearless. It's understanding the stories we've been telling ourselves for years and deciding that they don't have to become our future.